Coming up on the CHGO Cubs podcast, Bruce Levine breathes a little bit of hope and wishing into a possible Alex Bregman to the Cubs deal. Plus, Justin Steele would love to hear talks about a contract extension from the Cubs. Will he get him? Does he deserve it? You deserve the best. It's coming up next, CHGO Cubs. Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs podcast coming at you live on January 15th, another sunny Wednesday here in Chicago. Luke Stuckmeyer and Cody Delmendo coming at you, and we have Steven running the ones and twos back at the studio for us today. We appreciate that. We will have a special live guest for you tomorrow in studio, and then, of course, Cubs convention. Friday, Saturday. Still trying to figure out exactly what our plans are going to be, but you'll see us around. We'll be there. So say hi. Hi to everybody in the live YouTube chat. Craig Brindle's here. Christian's here. Jay Andrews always in the chat. Hello to everybody that's up and around. We're going to talk Cubs baseball. Try and keep you warm. Another cold day in Chicago. There's been some stuff. It's mostly rumors, right, Cody? I know we could I wish there was a deal to talk about, but it's mostly rumors. We're going to talk about the Bruce Levine report on the score. It's got a lot of people stirred up.
Can we just give credit where credit is due? Bruce Levine is giving us something to talk about today.
Bruce is giving us content. I don't know if I
just be honest about it.
And it's not his fault. I'm just telling you now, I don't know if I'd buy it.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to discuss it.
Right.
Same.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that Bruce report from yesterday. Plus, we'll talk about Justin Steele. Our buddy Michael Cerami wrote about contract extension talks, and that's been a thing that's been going around for at least over a year now. At least in discussions, whether or not people think, will the Cubs give him one? Does he deserve one? What would it look like if they gave him one? And we'll talk about where he fits into the elite pitchers list in all of Major League Baseball. Gary Ross says Bruce was lost last season. This offseason, he seems on point. Okay, yes. What Bruce is telling you, I believe, is factual. Have the Cubs had discussions with Alex Bregman? Yes. Have they been casual discussions? I'm sure that is true. Does Bregman have a deal yet? No. So would the Cubs be open to waiting around and throwing out to Scott Boras, hey, if it comes back and you're looking, you know what, maybe I'd take a short-term deal with some outs, a 1 year, a 2, or even a 3, as long as there's player options in it, a show-me type deal like Cody Bellinger had, because his numbers have dropped, right? His on-base percentage is down. A bunch of things have slowly gone down as he gets older. Would the Cubs be open to short term? Yes. Would Bregman? He might have to be.
Right. Well, I've been sitting here all offseason, mostly waiting for the Red Sox to get off their hands. Yeah. But I know Detroit has been part of the conversation because A.J. Hinch is the manager. Mm-hmm. The Blue Jays have missed out on so many people that they've been in, and I feel like they've been part of this, and they're in a situation that makes me feel good about the Cubs. If it makes me, outside of the fact that they might get Roki Sasaki, but they're in their general organizational situation right now. I feel better about the Cubs than I do the Blue Jays. I'm just being honest. So I feel, and when I say that, or why I say that, is because I feel like the Blue Jays are kind of entering desperation mode. Like they need to make some moves if they plan on contending, especially in that very tough AL East, right? So the fact that those things haven't transpired, I think we're going to be sitting here playing the waiting game. This is going to, if this happens, it's like Cody Bellinger last season. Yeah. Cody Bellinger signed with the Cubs at like 2 a.m. Mountain Time. when I was at spring training with Ryan, and me and Brendan did the emergency podcast in the middle of the night, right? It was like mid-February.
24th hour, the 24th day, not to brag, but
yes, credit to you. But yeah, I mean, I'm not sitting here saying it's going to happen. But I will say that I think that it's possible just because the Cubs have done this before. This wouldn't be something new. They just did it a year ago. It was just with a guy that was on their team the year before. Yeah. I don't know where Bregman's market is right now, but you can clearly see teams have concerns about giving that long-term deal out because, as someone in the chat said, his last 2 seasons haven't been what I grew to know what Alex Bregman was. That said, he was still really good last year, and he still would be if he would have been on the Cubs the last couple of years, we'd all would have been happy with him, considering what we've been putting at third base the last couple of years, right? So when you look at it in that way, I understand concern about adding a 31-year-old guy who his last couple of years hasn't been the best that we've seen from him, but I still think it's a nice little bridge to Matt Shaw. It also gives you options to maybe go back on the trade market and toss Nico Horner out there. I'm not advocating for it. I'm just saying it's a possibility. But I'm also thinking you can keep Nico, and maybe Matt Shaw is your super utility guy.
Right, the guy you've been looking for.
And I'm okay with that. I am. I just, as I've said all offseason, I don't believe in the Bregman stuff. Like when Heyman said it was an outside possibility, with this, I guess it's a little bit more realistic. It makes me, think maybe it could happen a little bit more. But in general, I think if it happens, we'll be sitting here waiting. And for the next month, Cubs fans will be saying the same things in our YouTube chat, saying we're doing nothing. If we're sitting in mid-February and they don't have an insurance policy for Matt Shaw at third base, maybe it will happen. But I don't know. Yeah. I'm not really sure if I want it to happen or not, to be honest.
Sir Silent of the Fogs with a super chat says Cubs talking with Boris is probably leverage to him.
Yeah,
I would. Sure. You're definitely onto something. Like, I don't think there's any question that what this really signals is not that necessarily the Cubs are getting this close to a deal for Alex Bregman. What it signals is that Bregman's getting a little anxious with spring training not that far off.
That's fair.
And he and his agent turned down a multi-year big deal at one point from the Astros, and I'm not sure he's getting that money. Like, he's trying to make his money now, and he's realizing, wow, we're getting close to spring training. I don't have a team. I'd like to have a team. I'd like to know where I'm going. Am I going to Arizona? Am I going to Florida? And who am I going to play with? Right? So if the deal's not coming, just like it didn't for some guys last year, then he'll have to shift his philosophy. And this is Boris probably going A, to Heyman, then B, locally to Bruce and saying, hey, if these teams that are out there aren't going to want to do this long-term deal, he might just go to the Cubs on a short-term deal, and then he's going to be way more expensive if he proves it after 1 year because he'll opt out and he'll get a bigger deal. It's possible. I don't think it's the worst idea. I just, from the Cubs' perspective, it would have to be so you're right in that there is a fit in that you could ease Matt Shaw into it. Matt Shaw is going to be at Cubs convention. You've already gone publicly on record and said he's going to get a lot of looks. Some of these young guys are going to get real good looks this year and have good opportunities. He's already there doing all the right things. It's not to say that you can't go sign a guy for 1 year. But if it's a 3-year deal, remember, Cody Bellinger kept opting back in. So that deal also sits there, and potentially if it goes the wrong way and he's not playing well, then you do have a 3-year deal, and then you're sitting there with Shaw saying, what are we doing with Bregman? How are we getting – now, is he better than anything? Yeah, he's way better than Paredes.
Yeah.
Way better. Like, do I like him better than Paredes? Yes.
Yes.
Is he better than Christopher Morel? Yes. Would he be a major upgrade of certainty going into this season over what Matt Shaw may or may not give you this season? Yes, he's a more proven major league player, right?
Yeah.
So in that way, it's not crazy. I think this is posturing. I'll stick with what I said before. I'll be shocked. I'm more likely to
You'll
take
be floored.
Smith's job than I am Alex Bregman playing third base. But I'm wrong. I could be wrong.
You'll be outside in your underwear before Alex Bregman's job.
I'll be outside in my underwear taking Stephen A. Smith's job before Alex Bregman will play third. That's just about how confident I feel in that.
I said earlier in my thought that, the last couple of years, Bregman hasn't been what I grew to know Alex Bregman. And that just kind of describes how good Alex Bregman was. And 2018 and 2019 were his best seasons. He was an 8-WAR player in each of those seasons.
Yeah.
He was a 5-WAR player in 2022. The last 2 years, 4-WAR player. But the offense, when you look at WRC plus, has gone down each of the last 2 years compared to 2022. So, in 2018, 2019, he had a WRC plus over 150, 167 in 2019. The guy was insane in 2019. But so I think that's why some teams have a little bit of concern. But when you say certainty and you say you feel like you know what you're going to get at third base, that's just something that we haven't been able to say about the Cubs at third base in a while. And as much as I'm high on Matt Shaw, I know you're high on Matt Shaw too. We're excited about what Matt Shaw could be. If you can add a guy like Alex Bregman and ease Shaw in to the mix and let him kind of be that super utility guy who can play some third base, can play some second. We still don't really know how healthy Nico Horner is, right?
Yeah.
And the ability to do that, and who knows, maybe he can play a little corner outfield too if they absolutely needed him to in some aspects. I think there's value in that, and that's better than going and signing some, utility guy on the free agent market for a couple million. I think that there's more value in going with a guy like Shaw in that role to give him that opportunity but also ease him in at the same time. And meanwhile, you have a consistently solid third baseman who, if he does take the short-term deal, he'll be playing for a big deal. It could flop like Bellinger basically did last year, but if I think that there's definitely going to be motivation for Alex Bregman if he did sign with the Cubs, because he won't be here long-term, and if he wants a long-term deal, he'd probably enter the free agent market in 2020 after 2025. So. And hopefully by then you feel good about Shaw and you can just stick him at third base, or who knows what happens.
Right.
But either way, he's part of the mix.
Or second or wherever.
Yeah. So
Sir Silent of the Fogs gave us another super chat, said we should talk to Alex Hyde, I think he said. No, Robbie Hyde. Great content if you want to talk Red Sox and Cubs. Have a great day. He's going back to work. Thanks, Sir Silent of the Fogs. We appreciate it. Our guy Matthew Gregory's in the live YouTube chat, and he says Bregman's a fringe all-star, 2 to 5 WAR guy. Ian Happ at third. I don't disagree with that now. And I would say this, would you take Ian Happ? Let's just say Ian Happ could play third base.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you take Ian Happ's production at third base? I mean, that would be such a massive improvement over what you've had at third base since Chris Bryant left. Of course you would take that. But you don't want to take it on a long-term deal if you can take it for, little to zero money with a rookie coming up. And that's where, if not your best prospect, obviously one of your best prospects, they think he can play there. Rich Biesterfeld sent us the pictures. We've got the pictures of him taking ground balls. I like to at least see that.
Yeah.
I know one thing, Master Boney's gone, Madrigal's gone, and there's still a long list of guys that they could put. Morel's gone. The three M's are all gone.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, someone's got to grab that position after Chris Bryant.
Yeah. I don't know who it's going to be, but it definitely has me a little intrigued about what could happen. And I'm also thinking if this is the route that they end up going, how are they going to improve the bullpen? And are they going to get another starting pitcher? I guess that's a good segue into further into the show. But if he takes a short-term deal, he's still going to get a high AAV. And we know how this organization's operating. We have $40 to $45 million to play with here. I hate this conversation now.
Cody, I give it less than 5%. And I know we have an ad break coming up and you're going to tell us about all our great sponsors, but I'll say 5% or less. And then we'll talk starting pitchers in a second.
I'll go 10% just to have a little bit of optimism. All right. You know what I'm always optimistic about? It's when I log on to Game Time when I'm getting off the red line at Addison. All right. Game Time is a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets to find the best value. Again, I live a mile and a half north of Wrigley Field. So when I go to Wrigley, when I go to Friday 120 Club, I go straight to Argyle, get on the red line, and get off at Addison. And that's when I pull up Game Time, and that's when I end up buying my bleacher ticket, because I always wait until an hour or two, maybe even sometimes right before first pitch to get my ticket. And that's what makes Game Time the best, because not a lot of other resellers are like that. And the price goes down the longer you wait. So that's why I love Game Time. That's my experience with it most of the time. They have other good features as well. The all-in pricing feature, it's a toggling feature that shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. No one likes a bait and switch, especially Luke Stuckmeyer. No. You get seat views, which are like a panoramic view across the field from where your seat is in the app before you buy. And the lowest price guarantee or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Game Time ticket coverage also. Your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time, and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code CHGO for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price. Guaranteed.
Saturday Neon, started by two college friends. Saturday Neon makes officially licensed collegiate logo LED neon signs, perfect for your home, office, dorm room, fan cave, podcasting set, or bar. Check out their new Essentials collection featuring almost 50 of the biggest schools across the country and counting for only $75. No better way to represent your favorite Big Ten team, Cody. Unlike traditional neon signs, these LED signs won't break or shatter, but still give you that classic uniform glow that you know and love. LEDs last up to 100,000 hours, so you'll have these signs for years to come. Super easy to install with the provided hardware. Low voltage, they don't get hot, so they're safe to the touch. Perfect gift anytime. I said Valentine's Day coming up. Tell your lady you'd like that Illini sign, Cody. CHGO has used Saturday Neon to get our studio signs. They look great. So use the code CHGO for 10% off your order at SaturdayNeon.com. They are pretty sweet signs.
Before we move to Justin Steele, you know how we love to talk about projections, Luke. Yes. You know how we talk about projections.
Exceeding projections.
I just to throw it out there, okay? On Fangraphs, I'm looking at this right now. They have projections from 3 different outlets, I guess you could say. Steamer, we'll just go with Steamer because I think people know Steamer the most. He's projected to play 150 games, 23 homers, 87 runs scored, 82 RBIs, with a walk rate of 10.3%, 13.2% K rate, 181 isolated power, 261, 344 on base, 443 slug with a 342 weighted on base average, 122 WRC plus. That's really solid. It honestly is giving me Ian Happ vibes. Honestly, that's what it's giving me. But again, it's better than what they've had at third base in a while. You know what I mean? If it's for 1 year and it allows you to bridge to Shaw, like, I'm not against it. But I still think that if it doesn't allow them, if they do this and it holds them back from adding a reliever at least, or a starting pitcher, that's the only thing that's gonna give me some sort of anxiety about it, because at this point, I think that pitching is more important.
Well, it's certainly better than trading prospects for a stopgap at third, which I don't think is really on the table, but I'm just saying, like, it's better than doing that. At least it only costs you money, which you should have plenty of. I see James in the YouTube chat is worried that Seiya is mad that he doesn't want to be a full-time DH, something that came up, a couple weeks ago. How's he going to be treated? I stopped caring about Seiya being angry about DH the second Roki chose another team.
I also don't know if he's actually
the second Roki wasn't looking at the Cubs anymore. Seiya can be angry and be the DH every day.
Again, and I've said this before, just because his agent said something
right
about something 3 years ago, saying that he wouldn't have signed with the Cubs if he was going to be a full-time DH, does not mean it doesn't signal to anything right now. That had everything to do with some sort of leverage in a trade or something like that, if it were going to happen, right? Now, it's not like the Cubs haven't played the guy in right field. The Cubs have given him plenty of opportunity to play right field. So, I mean, if it's a serious thing, I think they would have already moved on. If it was a serious thing, if you really didn't want to be the full-time DH, I think they would have already moved on.
If it was a real problem,
yeah,
they would have realistically tried to trade him with his no trade clause somewhere he wanted to go.
And I do believe in some way Seiya Suzuki will play some right field this year. There will be days where he plays right field. He's not going to DH for 162. So he will play right field, but objectively, you have a better defensive alignment with Happ, PCA, and Tucker out there. We know how good Seiya can be in the DH role with that. We saw it in the last year. So until something comes out outside of what his agent said related to something 3 years ago, that I'm not buying it.
Yeah. Gary Ross says, do you want to sacrifice payroll and Nico for 1 year, Bregman? No, I don't. Not for 1 year. Just because, they're most likely getting 1 year of Tucker. I don't know if I need 1 year of Tucker and 1 year of Bregman, losing prospects and payroll just to end up in a position where they need to fill some holes next year, and then they don't have Nico.
You want to hear my tinfoil hat theory I had while I was laying in bed?
Yeah.
The best tinfoil hat theories in my head happen when I'm in bed before I go to sleep.
As long as you were wearing something else other than just the tinfoil, I'll listen to it.
Yes, I was. Sweatpants, if you were.
Good, thank you.
Okay. So my tinfoil hat theory, if they wait it out and sign Bregman, they could then perhaps move Shaw to second, and then maybe Nico Horner would be involved in a trade to the Padres for Cease.
When would this happen?
I don't know. I'm just saying, like this. I don't know if it even makes sense.
Right.
I'm just again my theory, because we know how the Cubs love former Cubs.
Yeah,
Jed Lawyer specifically, and Dylan Cease has been he's been tossed out there all offseason too. Has he technically been linked to the Cubs in any major way? I don't think so. But all I'm saying is that sounds like something the Cubs would do too. Now, I would definitely have so much anxiety going through the season, trying to figure out who they will pay, or will they pay both? Because Dylan Cease is in the same situation as Kyle Tucker, and I believe Dylan Cease's agent is Scott Boras. So I'm not even saying that I want it to happen, but I'm like, this sounds like something the Cubs would do.
I mean, would I rather have Cease than Flaherty? Yes. I have a question for you real quick before we get to Steele. Would you rather have Flaherty, or would you rather have Bregman at third for a 3-year opt-out deal? I'd rather have Flaherty. I'd rather have Flaherty.
Should we act on the fact that Flaherty would be the same type of deal? Because in that article that Bruce wrote, Flaherty, he also says that Flaherty has openly said that he would take a shorter term deal too. I think at this point, I think pitching is more important here. I'm me personally, I'm willing to roll the dice with Shaw at third base, let him go through the ups and downs, the MLB adjustments or whatever. I'm willing to go through that if that means that they're going to add a starter to go at the top of the rotation. And I think that also would allow them to perhaps add a reliever too. I just think pitching is more important than Bregman at third at this point. I could be wrong, and I know we did a lot of complaining about the offense last year. I know that we did this, but I am also, like we've said, I'm also thinking about Wrigley Field being more neutral next year. in terms of playing conditions. I'm also thinking about that. So I don't really know what the rotation will be. I'm optimistic about it. There's no reason that I should sit here and have negative feelings about it. But do I think Wrigley Field will be a bottom 5 offensive ballpark in 25? No, I don't. So to me, I feel like you just need a little bit more certainty there in the rotation. And I think we all definitely feel like they need a reliever. So again, my fear with Bregman is that they won't be able to get.
I'm not saying the weather wasn't different last year. It was a little bit different. But that still will irk me more than anything that happened this offseason was even letting that be a factor in your end of season press conference. What I would say is, you know what impacts a bad offensive ballpark? Bad offense. Bad offense can too. Sure. Well, the weather blowing in, no question about it. It was blowing in. We had a lot of miserable weather. You sat in a lot of it.
Objectively, as of today, I do think the lineup is better than last year because I do think Kyle Tucker is better than Cody Bellinger.
I do too.
And I do think that if they go with Shaw at third base, he will probably be better than what the combination of Christopher Morel, Isai Paredes, anyone else who played at third base last year. I think he will be better than that in terms of overall value. I do think he will at least be that. So that's why I'm willing to roll the dice with him at third and go with what they got and have some optimism about PCA and Bush taking a step forward. Like I'm willing to do that.
Or at least one of them, right?
Yeah.
If one of them can stay lateral and the other one can take a significant step forward, now you have something, especially if Dansby is healthy and plays like a key piece of the team at shortstop, right? Like,
he isn't bad for 3 months.
Correct. Yeah. Right. There you're very nice, Steven. There's the tinfoil hat on Cody's head. He walks around in thunderstorms, snow, you name it. He wears that hat everywhere. He rides his scooter with that tinfoil hat on.
The scooter hasn't been out in a while, but the e-bike.
Can you imagine riding your scooter today?
No, I cannot.
It's one of those.
I can't even imagine riding the e-bike today.
If you walk more than like a block in Chicago or even out in the suburbs anywhere, today's one of those days where your eyeballs start to water and freeze.
Yeah.
If you're walking.
I got out of bed today and was just like, God, it's cold in here, man.
Yeah.
Like I'm in one of those old Chicago apartments with like the radiator. Yeah. So I have no control. I just have to wait for it to kick on, man. And like, if you know, you know. Sometimes it can get real cold or sometimes it can get
unbearably hot. Yeah.
Yes. So
we are going to get to the Justin Steele talk. I know people want to get to that, and we'll tease it this way just by saying there's been a lot of people wondering about whether or not Steele will get an extension. Like, will the Cubs do a solid and pay a guy more what he really deserves? Like, he's in arbitration, so that exists, but in reality, we know he could be making more than $6, $7, $8 million. I mean, he's easily a $20 million guy, no question about it. But at the same time, the Cubs have been very patient with him and moved him through the process. So there's two sides to the story. And isn't that the whole point of developing guys from your farm system? So that, unfortunately, the business is a lot of times the guys coming from other organizations are going to sometimes get paid more than guys in the organization. That's not necessarily fair, but that is a lot of times the way life works. So we'll get to the Steele stuff in a second. We'll talk more about that. I want to talk about the MLB Network rankings for starting pitchers coming up in a second too, because that's interesting. Just a teaser on it. Shota seems to be getting more love than Steele does.
Well, that's because Shota has vibes.
But it's not just the fans. It was also one of the MLB Network TV people. You know, they put up their list too, and I was surprised to see Shota getting more love than Steele. I would say this as we go to break. I think Steele's getting snubbed on some lists. I think people are sleeping on Justin Steele. Now, the contract situation, that's a whole nother thing. That's the business of baseball. I'll just say this. I do think people are sleeping on Justin Steele a little bit. Do I think he can be a legit ace? I think he already has been. He may not be a top 5 pitcher in baseball, but he's already proven that he's an ace.
Definitely a guy that I feel really good about every fifth day.
You got it. All right, let's talk about our sponsors real quick. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by more than 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames, crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. I like to golf in them. I like to fish in them. Right now, with the glare off the snow, I like to drive in them. They have hundreds of options to choose from, so you're bound to find the perfect pair to match your style. I guarantee you they've got one in your favorite team's colors. In fact, I know they do. Plus, if your shades ever go missing or take an unexpected hit, don't sweat it. They have an insane protection program. Every pair is backed by lost or broken replacements. If you don't love your shades, exchange them for a new pair. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use the code CHGO. CHGO gets you 35% off your polarized shades. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by more than 300,000 people.
After you get your Shady Rays, you can put your shades on and then get ready to ride tonight because we have a huge college basketball slate, huge NBA slate. I mean, and you just got to go to Circa.
Congratulations on the Illini win, by the way.
Yeah, I wish I could have bet it. It would have been the easiest the easiest sweat ever. There would have been no sweating. It was just laughing, which legitimately that's what I was doing last night, was laughing as they were chanting "Fire Mike Woodson" at Assembly Hall. But anyway, whether it's pro or college, the app to bet football is Circa Sports Illinois. Circa Sports, it's sports betting the way it should be. Circa Sports Illinois has high betting limits, low holds, and exceptional customer service. Bet on all your favorite teams in every game this season. Spreads, props, futures, or in-game. Circa Sports has it. Fund and bet like a pro from anywhere, anytime in Illinois. Download your new bookie today at circasports.com. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem, 1-800-GAMBLER. I like Oklahoma, -2.5 tonight against Texas. 9 p.m. hoops, baby. Let's go.
Boy, that's late. That's late. No.
It is, but I like to watch former Illinois recruit Jeremiah Fears. He's been one of the best players in college basketball this year. So,
all right, Justin Steele. So, our friend Michael Cerami wrote about it at Bleacher Nation. Justin Steele was on the Locked On podcast and was actually the guy. They just asked him straight up, like, if you had contract extension talks, and he's like, no. Okay, so he's like, I personally haven't had any talks about it. So Cerami puts out this hypothetical of how about his year for 96. Did you see that one? Which would be like the 3 years coming up plus 2 or 3 more at like $22 million each. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it. He does deserve it. Mm-hmm. There's no question. Justin Steele deserves extension talks. Right now you have him under control, though, through his age 31 season. 3 more years of control. That's about as valuable of something as you can hang on to in Major League Baseball. An ace that's not making a ton of money. Let me rephrase that. That's not making a ton of money in baseball terms. He's still making a ton of money, obviously, compared to the rest of the world. But in baseball terms, an ace can be making way more than he is making. So that is super beneficial to the team, especially if they're going to operate more like a small market team or a mid-market team than a major market team. Now, we don't know what's going to happen with the Bellinger Doe. We don't know if that's going back into the team to add to it, give us a reliever, give us a third baseman, give us another bat. We don't know. Would you hate the idea, Cody, of taking some of that money and giving it to Justin Steele? Because as Cerami points out in the article that he wrote at Bleacher Nation, yes, the Cubs are getting incredible flexibility out of this right now. But if you look at Justin Steele and say, even beyond 31, we believe Justin Steele is going to be the guy. Mm-hmm. And you look at what Max Fried just got, 218 for ages like 31 to 38. You'd be saving a lot of money if you locked him up for, just increasing his pay because he's going to get some raises because of arbitration anyway. You would save money in the long run that way. Would you be okay with taking some of that dough and giving an extension to Justin Steele right now?
Well, let's kind of go over some stuff here. He's 29 as of today. His birthday's in July, so he'll be 30 in the middle of next season, right? As you pointed out, he's on a very, very friendly situation right now. He's gonna make $6.5 million in 2025.
I mean,
right? It's such a steal for the Cubs.
That's only double what you're making. I mean, that's the kind of.
Don't let the facts get in the way. What I do an extension with Justin Steele again. He has after the season he'll have 2 more years of arbitration, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
So
three more years through 2027. They've got him, right. and Steven's got the numbers to back up just how good he's been. I mean, he's been last couple of years. He's been spectacular, as good as anybody in baseball.
Right.
ERA like basically hovering right at 3, and obviously without injuries, there's a chance he can. I still think Justin Steele can be in a Cy Young conversation.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, for me, I would definitely be in for an extension. I guess for me, the only concern I have is the years, just because this is nothing against him, because I'm a huge fan, but he was a late bloomer, he's 29 and he's in year 3 technically in terms of the service time, right? So and as much as I agree with you about Cy Young and like being a top of the rotation guy, he has been hurt each of the last 2 years. And so he's had Tommy John in the past. My thing is just the years. You want to give him a 5-year extension? I'm here for it. That's where I'm at. 5 years. You get him from 30 to 35. Like I'm very open to that. I wouldn't go more than 5 years though, and I don't think that he would even be looking for anything more than 5 years, considering the age that he is at right now. And even though he's been great these last 2 years, it's not like he has a large body of work compared to some guys who enter free agency when they hit the free agency market, right? It's hard to project these types of numbers. What Cerami did, sure. Like,
yeah, I mean,
I think that's still a great deal considering the value that he's giving you. Yes, right. I'm here for it. I'm absolutely here, and it's also you're doing right by a homegrown player who's been awesome for you, and he's being significantly underpaid at this point. Like, just do the guy right. You know what I mean? So, that's basically where I'm at. I think he deserves an extension, and I think he's earned one. And, I'm not saying here we should give him some large deal, but you are basically getting him on such a, like, this is more than team friendly right now, right? So I think that he certainly, they should at least be having these discussions. The fact that the Cubs aren't even having discussions with him right now, it's honestly, if I was him, I'd be pissed. So we've seen it way too many times in the past, man. Like, do right by your players, especially like this is such an organizational win in terms of development. This organization used to be known for not being able to develop pitching. This guy was drafted in 2014, went through a bunch of ups and downs, had Tommy John, all that, and he still has crafted out a great major league career to this point. Like, do what's right, in my opinion. Like, do what's right. And if you at least start negotiations now or sometime before the season, and it turns into something in season, or maybe it's next year, whatever. All I'm saying is don't force fans to have to sit here in his walk year and discuss if they are going to extend him or not. Like, just get this done now.
Yeah, don't you remember him having the fire going into the dugout last year? Like, it's difficult for a pitcher, especially a starter who doesn't play every day, to be a leader on the team. But I think Justin Steele is that guy. I also think if you were to go to him with a deal, and I haven't asked him this, I'd be curious, but like, if you offer the guy $100 million of locked up guaranteed money, this is a guy who likes to go out and go fishing. This is a guy who likes to go out and enjoy the outdoors and watch college football. I don't think he's sitting there saying, I'm waiting for the $300 million. Like $100 million is going to set up a family for a long time. Like, I think you guys could find something in there. He said he's obviously willing to listen and see if it makes sense if the Cubs were to come to him. I'm curious if two things. One, if Jed Hoyer is not, like, is it possibly it's a year early or a half a season early? Like, he's gone. Steele said, I think if it would happen, it'd probably happen at spring training. Would not be against it. Just like I wasn't against it for Happ, I wasn't against it for Nico Horner, because you were locking up guys at pretty safe deals that shouldn't handicap your organization, and they do things the right way. Steele's exactly the same thing, only he's a pitcher, not an everyday player. It's possible the Cubs think as a business it's maybe a year too early to have that conversation. And I'd understand that from their perspective, because pitchers get hurt so badly. But I seem to land on your side of it. This is the time to show the rest of the league that you're going to take care of your guys. If he's into doing it and he's willing to give you that discount, because it would be a discount on his side too to sign this, because Max Fried just showed you he could wait till he's 31, and if Max Fried is getting $218 million this year, 3 years from now, what is Justin Steele going to get? He's still going to get a really big contract. If he keeps putting these numbers out, he's probably out of your price range. To be realistic, like in 3 years, if this contract goes out, I don't think they'd pay Justin Steele. I think they'd let him go in free agency, and they would hope that Horton and some of these young guys develop and they have younger contracts. That would be disappointing. Yeah. That would be disappointing to develop the guy and then just see him go. Not that other teams don't do it. So,
right.
I think you should do the guy right.
I may have pushed a little bit that, he's been hurt the last couple of years, this and that.
That's true.
But it's true. It's objectively true. Let's be honest, though. Last year, the injury wasn't arm related. It was him trying to field a
freak injury.
It was him trying to field a swinging bunt or whatever it was in Texas, right?
Made me almost throw up on opening day.
Same. I don't like to throw up in public, so I kept it in. Credit to me.
Right, we kept the hurl to ourselves.
But yes, I know at the end of last year, me and you both were like, don't play him because of whatever was going on with the shoulder, and then he came back and pitched. Whatever, he felt great. He's healthy going into the spring. I've seen Rich Biesterfield post photos of him slinging the pigskin out there in Arizona with the team, the guys who were there. Like, he looks healthy, right? So whatever, that's fine with me. But I think from a Cubs perspective, I do think that they probably want to see one more year of really solid contribution. And 30 starts 2 years ago, 24 starts last year. He still put up basically the same type of numbers. He had an expected ERA under 3, if the expected numbers mean anything to anyone. But yeah, I don't, even if he does go to free agency, I don't think he's going to be getting something like $200 million like Max Fried did. But I could be wrong. Who knows where the market is in 3 years? By the way, also,
Yeah.
And so. There's a lot of factors that go into this. At the end of the day, though, if this guy continues to perform, it'd just be nice to see the Cubs do right by this guy. I mean, they did right by Ian Happ. You can argue all you want about the Nico Horner thing, because they basically just bought out the arbitration years, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. But we all still have a little PTSD from the core guys from 16, right? Whether it was the right decision or not to move on from those dudes, which obviously in hindsight, yes, Schwarber might be the only one, not even might, Schwarber's the only one that you probably are you probably should have found a way to keep him. But I guess Rizzo too. But the thing that I'm getting at here is that it's just, when are you going to keep your own, right? You develop this guy as a great win for your organization. I just feel like it from that perspective, it makes a lot of sense. So I do think, again, the Cubs probably want one more year. And maybe their payroll is different going into 2020, going into 2026, because my other tinfoil hat theories is yours is like, where's the money? Like, are we pocketing the 40-some million left?
Show me the money.
And if they have to if Jed Hoyer is forced to pocket this or to not spend a certain amount of money here, going into 25, then like I can't blame him for that. We don't know, right? So it is what it is. But that's another factor that goes into it. Like I still expect them to spend that money. Should it be number one on their priority list right now, the Justin Steele extension? No, but I do think it's something that they need to start at least having conversations with him about, because I think taking that step it shows him that they want him long term. And it almost happened with Javi Baez, and the pandemic happened, and I'm not going to rehash all that, right? But they had the conversations going. We need to at least get to that point at some point.
Start the conversation.
Yes.
Corey Seacrest in the live YouTube chat says, where would Steele project into the rotation over the next 5+ years? Number 1, 2, or 3? It's a good question. We don't know. Shota has flexibility in his contract. Right. We don't know if Horton's going to develop into an ace. We don't know if Ben Brown's going to develop into a frontline starter. We don't know a lot of things, but final thing on Steele. The danger of signing your own guys to extensions is this. What the White Sox learned. When you sign a guy to an extension and you give him the guaranteed money, it's not about losing that huge advantage you have of getting a guy that's only making 6 instead of 22 this year. The danger is that you give a bag of money, $100 million or whatever, or $120 million. The danger is when you give that extension or big contract early to a guy who's a dog. When you give that money to a guy who's not going to work hard after he gets the money and is going to be willing to sit through injuries and not play because he's already got his money, why would I risk going out there and hurting myself? It doesn't matter. That's the risk of giving an extension. Justin Steele's not that guy. Justin Steele's already shown you many times in your own organization that he will work, and he will work hard to become the ace of your staff. So I'm very confident that if the Cubs were to give Justin Steele an extension right now, yes, they'd be paying him more than they need to. But it's not the worst gamble, because it could pay off and likely would pay off later, because this guy's a worker and a grinder. Now, if something horrible happens, knock on wood, yeah, you've got to take that hit. But he's going to show you that he's going to work through it. He's going to give you everything he has. He's about as big a bulldog as you can get on the team, right?
Right. Well,
so there's worse guys to put those poker chips down on. That's for sure.
What you just said, it just reminds me of what we say all the time. Like, every transaction, there's risk.
Yep. Especially a pitcher.
Right.
Especially a pitcher.
Probably
there's less risk when the guy is a bulldog and a hard worker and has shown you he has this crazy determination to be the best.
Yeah. Obviously, even if you get an extension done, you probably are still looking at it as a team-friendly deal, honestly. Like,
yeah,
I don't see him – I don't know what the numbers are, but I just don't see him getting any of the outrageous numbers that we've seen other starting pitchers getting. You know what I mean? Like, he's not going to get $300 million at free agency. I don't see that. But yeah, we'll see, man.
We don't know what the next 2 years are going to hold. Corey's following back up with he's got that dog in him. Yeah, that's not a term I throw around because I'm old, but that's right. And Steven put out a question here on while we're doing the show. If you had a game 7 right now, who would you want starting? Would you rather have Shota or would you rather have Steele? And while I love Shota and I love his personality and I love everything about him, if I had to pick one guy that I said was a dog on this current Cubs team, there's no question it is Justin Steele. Yeah. Am I wrong? Like Dansby seems to have that in him. Nico has it in him. But if you had to ask me who's the one guy on the team that you say, man, that guy's a dog, Steele.
Yeah. Steele definitely has. We always compared him to like the John Lester type mentality. Like he just
not
goes
necessarily in stuff. And Greg Maddux both. I mean, that's why he was Mad Dog, right? Like
Right.
They've got it in them.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something about Steele that always sticks out for me over Shota, but that's nothing against Shota. I think we've just seen more Steele at this level. I want to be optimistic that Shota can repeat what he did last year, but I don't see it realistically. But I hope he proves me wrong there. So, but with Steele, he's proven the last 2 years that he can give you 20-plus starts. He's going to give you consistency. He's going to give you a chance to win every day, and he's going to give you everything he's got. He'll put the team on his back like he did in 23 and was in the Cy Young race. He's done that before. I think in 23, the question, you went into 24 thinking like, can he get through the entire season with the same stuff? Because he wasn't really great in September of 23, but last year I felt like if that injury in Texas doesn't happen, I feel like we see a lot more of what we saw, and there's something about him and the Pirates. You take those starts against the Pirates away and you're like, he was really good. I really don't get it. It's wild to think about when you see how well he's pitched against some of the best teams in the league, but then he goes up against the Pirates and it's like his kryptonite. So,
right. He might be allergic to pierogies or something. It's the night before,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
William Workman says Steele gets the most out of his talent. That's why an extension is risky. And I'm willing to accept that argument. I don't disagree with it, but the flip side of it would be, I would say I'm more willing. I want more guys like that on my team than I do super talented who will never reach that. You always want the high, like right now, the Bears, you're looking at a head coaching search. For the Bears situation, I would rather have the high ceiling coach, right? If you're just looking at a coach or the high ceiling quarterback, because why not? Why not go for it? In baseball right now, because there's so many players on the team and a pitcher, I personally would rather have a bunch of guys that are getting the most. I would rather have a bunch of Kyle Hendricks in their prime and Justin Steele's in their prime than I would Eloy Jimenez. I don't. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Sure.
That's not to make fun of or pick on Eloy Jimenez. I'm just saying, just use that as an example. Tons of talent. They're undeniable talent, and we may say the same thing about Luis Robert. No question, the guy has insane skills. But what are we going to – is he ever going to reach that top? I'd be more worried about giving that extension right now to Luis Robert than I would be in giving that to Justin Steele. MLB does that. They do the list, right? I mentioned the top 10 list. The fan list included Shota, but not Steele. The MLB list included neither in the top 10 of starting pitchers. I don't disagree with where they were going for rank at the top, okay? Maybe I wouldn't put Chris Sale, although last season he was spectacular. My buddy Dan Plesac swears that Zach Wheeler is by far the man, the number one pitcher in all of baseball. That's where this list had it. And then Skubal, Sale, Skeens. I think those four right now could be interchangeable. I don't know if I'd go Snell that high and then Burns, and it goes down the list. The fan list put Shota at 10. Brian Kenny also put out his list, and he was doing it with, I think, Al Leiter, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, Brian Kenny had Shota at 8. Ohtani coming back from his injury at 9 this year. Other names that were thrown in there, Hunter Brown, Michael King, Jacob deGrom. Listen, all those guys, Framber Valdez. I'd rather have Justin Steele than Framber Valdez right now. I would. Not that Framber hasn't been great in the postseason for the Astros.
Yeah.
But I could make an argument that Steele's just as good.
Yeah. Are we talking about what MLB Network put out, not the fan one, right?
Yeah.
I think you'll look at this, and I think you can make an argument that maybe Steele can get in there at 10. Logan Webb's he's honestly kind of underrated in my opinion. So I think he belongs there. Garrett Cole, we know what Garrett Cole is. Corbin Burns, same thing. I think you're getting consistency out of him every year, and he's healthy for the most part. Blake Snell, yeah, is he top 5? I don't know, but he can be. He can look top 5 at times. Everyone just buying and eating up all the Paul Skeens.
Yeah, Chef Kevin says he believes Steele
is maybe a top 30 pitcher.
I think he's definitely higher than that. I don't know that you have to put him in the top 10. Mm-hmm. I just know that I would, for sure, I'd find a way to put him in the top 15, 20.
Yeah.
No question about it.
I don't really have much of an argument here. Like, if this is your thing, like, fine.
It's not like it's a hill I need to go die on or anything. I'm just saying
you're at the top of the hill saying Justin Steele the top 10 pitcher in baseball.
He's getting disrespect a little bit because he's been on a bad team for multiple years. But I think there have been points in the season where you look at Justin Steele and you look at him and say, man, that's everything you want an ace to be. And I know there's not every team even has an ace.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. Well, listen, if anything, this is just motivation, because you mentioned Chris Sale. Like, yeah, before last season, Chris Sale wouldn't have been on this list. He'd been hurt. He was going through a lot of stuff with the Red Sox. He gets traded to the Braves, revives his career, has a Cy Young season. If you win the Cy Young award, I feel like you deserve to be on the list, right? Screwball, yeah, he was insane in the playoffs and last year. Wheeler, he's been consistently good. I think the top 5 is fine. Does Paul Skeens deserve to be in the top 5 in terms of stuff? Probably, but he hasn't proven enough. But we're talking about right now, I'm assuming. it says right now on the list.
Wheeler, Skeens, Scooble, you can't go wrong with those.
Yeah, sure. Fine. Whatever. I think maybe you can make an argument for him to be in there over Forever. Maybe.
I think
we have to remember, if we're talking right now, though, too, like we can't forget that he was hurt twice last year.
Yes, you're right.
So I don't know if he gives you another 170 plus innings like he did in 23 and this season, and he's not on this list next year, then I think I'll have an argument. But last year was good for him, but we've seen better.
Have you moved Shota ahead of him as the ace?
No.
Because that's what I'm just saying, like Kenny and Light are having the discussion on MLB Network, and Justin Steele's name doesn't come up, but Shota's does. That's not for me to say. To me, it's 1A, 1B, but there's a bigger sample size of Justin Steele being that guy than there is of Shota.
Yeah,
there just is.
I'll say this about Shota. I think Shota generates more whiffs than Justin, and that's probably what puts him over him. If you were to make this argument.
But if the wind's blowing out, Cody.
Well, if you generate more whiffs, then you're not going to have more guys hitting the ball out,
Yeah.
But that the home runs that Shota gives up is the only real concern I ever have about him. I could say a lot of the same things about Shota as I have about Steele, and the fact that he gives you a chance to win every 5th day. He is fun to watch. He's animated, all these things. He loves Chicago, all those like little exterior things, right? On the field, though, he goes out there and competes every 5th day. And the thing is that you know what he's going to do. Opponents know what he is going to do. And he goes out there and does it, and he still gets outs. So, maybe right now, if we're talking right now, yeah, Shota's been better than Steele. If you're talking right now, Shota's been better than Steele because Shota was healthy last year. And in his first year, and was as good as you could have hoped. He outperformed anyone's expectation last year. So, yeah, I think right now, sure, you can make the argument about Shota being better than him.
And I don't disagree with what we said at the time. I know we only have like 60 seconds or less left in the show, but like if you were to tell me Skeens, Scooble, Wheeler, yeah, if they were on the Cubs, they'd be the number 1. Then I'd be happy to move Shota and Steele to 2 and 3. But that's not the world we're living in. Okay, the Cubs do have 2 guys that could be considered aces on a lot of teams, and I still would like to see another guy in that mix exactly like them. That's why I say Flaherty's got that upside. So let's just see what happens. Cubs convention's coming up. Tomorrow we hope to have a special guest in studio with us.
Oh, they're gonna make us go back in?
Back in studio. A former teammate of mine, just tease it that way. And that's planned. And then We'll see what happens with Cubs convention coming up. Thanks to everybody in the live YouTube chat. Thanks to Steven for running the 1s and 2s. And thanks to you for watching and listening to the CHGO Cubs podcast. Until Thursday at 11:30, thanks for watching and fly the W.
We all silly like the mayor.